Well, hello, welcome. We are so excited to talk with you today about connecting service learning with your major, helping you see the ways that service learning can really help you feel confident in your major, help you find a major, decide on that major, and then how that major can really then play into a successful future after FGCU. My name is Justin Fitzgerald, and I get to serve as the director of our Office of Service Learning and Civic Engagement. And here with me is Jesse Drummond, our coordinator in the office. And we're just excited to spend a little bit of time here talking through not just what is service learning, but then how it connects for you, and especially the content of this course, and just really helping you feel confident in your major. So there's a great team working here with Jesse and I, and I'll let Jesse introduce herself and that team.
Awesome. Yeah, so my name is Jessie Drummond. I'm the coordinator for the office. Shalom Sims is our program assistant, and Lisa Page is our administrative specialist. And we have an amazing team of student workers for our office helping us with everything from graphic design to educational programming to helping out in the office and making sure we are here and ready to take your answers. You know, we've been serving in the community since 1997, so we really have a great network of students on and great network of community partners, really ready and excited to engage with you.
Thanks, Jesse. Yeah, I mean, many of our students, you already know that service learning is a requirement here at FGCU, and there's a good reason for that. It's because there's a good couple reasons, actually. It's because we know that the value of the experience, of that experiential learning, of getting outside the classroom, is something that is going to help you be successful both during your time here at FGCU and beyond. And because it is a requirement here, we as an office, we really help students both meet that requirement, but also make the most of that requirement. So many students say, you know, I did this in high school, I already kind of checked that box. Well, at the collegiate level, so at FGCU, it's very different than in high school, and the objectives of you doing service is very different as well. The objective certainly may overlap of, yeah, we want to serve the community and we want to make a positive impact in the community, but we also want you to use this opportunity to explore what you're passionate about, explore what you're interested in, and then connect that to a major that you feel really great about. And so anytime you're doing something out in the community, that's a chance for you to kind of dip your toe in different waters of, is this an activity I might want to do as a career? And you start to get those experiences where you say, oh, you know, I really love doing this, but now that I'm doing it more on a regular basis, it's probably not something I want to do as a career. Or the opposite of, I've always loved doing this, and now that I'm spending more time with it and I see people who this is their job day in and day out, you know, now I feel confident that this is what I want to do. And so it really either confirms what your interests are, or maybe just reminds you that it can just stay a hobby, and that's okay. So we often like to work with students in thinking about what their passions are first and foremost. So it's okay if you don't know what your passion is, but we are going to ask that question a lot of, what are you passionate about? What are you interested in? And I'll let Jesse explain. The slide that you see in front of you is our sustainable development goals. And this is going to take what you've maybe in the past traditionally thought of as just social issues and connect it on a more global level so that you're speaking the same language no matter where you're at in the world. And yeah, Jesse, do you want to explain to them more about the sustainable development goals?
So these were created by the United Nations, and not only is like sustainability in the backbone right of our university, but it's a really great way to take the day-to-day social issues that we care and love about and are working really hard towards in a way that are goals that are happening here on a local level as well as on a global level. So we have our community partners using the sustainable development goals and to learn a little bit about what they're doing to kind of move and align with these kind of like global initiatives, which is amazing. And we're really wanting students to look at these as a way to think about, like, what am I interested in? What am I excited about? What am I passionate about? And then how does that connect to the local community and the global community? So there are 17 of them, everything from no poverty to decent work and economic growth to life on land, life below water. I really, we're going to end a little early, and I hope today that you take that extra time to like jump into the website that the United Nations has created and to learn a little bit about what each goal encompasses, right? So a lot of students are like, well, I don't see like I really care about domestic violence and like what's happening there. You might not see that, right, as like a social issue here listed, but it's actually under gender equality, you know, like sexual harassment under gender equality. A lot of people are like, well, I really care for animals. I really want to make sure that, like, you know, I like working at the Humane Society. So that is not listed in terms of like animals, but it's actually under life on land and under life below water, because they're really trying to create targeted goals that everyone can be working towards on a global level to kind of reach these by 2030. So I'm going to jump off real quick and show you the United Nations website. And they have everything listed out here. And the great part is they have tons of resources here in terms of partnerships, events, but what I really want to talk to you about is each goal and show you where you can find a little bit more information to kind of dive a little deeper into this. So we'll jump into quality education, right, which is like a foundational piece to a lot of this. And they have great infographics in terms of what's going out, what's happening with things, some articles, some publications that'll connect to it, some news. But each and every one of them also have their target and indicators, and then the progress, which is a really great way to figure out what is happening with the things that we care so deeply about. So if you head on the targets and indicators, they actually list what is going on with them. So by 2030, ensure that all boys and girls have access to quality early childhood development, care, pre-primary education, so that they're ready for primary education, which is a foundational piece to make sure that everyone's ready. We have an equitable space for students to come into the education field. And so each of these actually drop down in terms of how they're going to be able to do this and how that they're rating these. So this is a really great way. And, you know, we've had a student that's like, I really want to work with, you know, students with Down syndrome, students with autism, but I want to do it in a way that is like working on making sure that education is a space where they come in and they feel able, right, to be able to participate in that. And so that's actually under quality education. It's probably also under reduced inequalities, but it's a really, so all of these are kind of impacting, I think, each other in multiple ways, but it's a great way to kind of look at what's happening from a global perspective. So this is a great, great website in terms of resources for you all to kind of dive a little bit deeper into the sustainable development goals.
So we give you this framework not to make it more complex than it needs to be, but to give you a structure to work from. So really what you need to, you know, at the most basic question here, what you need to think about is, what are you passionate about? And one of the ways to think about what you're passionate about is also to think about, where do you spend your time? Mm-hmm. So if that question in and of itself is just maybe too big for you, that's okay. Just think about, in my daily life, when I get up and I've got spare minutes before I go to school, or before I go to class, or before I go to work, what do you spend your time doing? That's often a good indicator of what you're passionate about. And it might be as simple as, I talk to my friends. Well, that tells me that you're passionate about connecting with people, that relationships matter to you. Although you may think that is true for everyone, and so why is that unique to you? It's not. Some people, you know, may choose to use their spare minutes by themselves and not connecting with other people. And so it's, as you start to look at how you spend your time, that can also tell you what you enjoy and what you might be passionate about. That is often true. Another way to look at it is, if I had a spare Saturday, what would bring me joy to spend that Saturday doing? Maybe it's arts and crafts, or maybe it's working with animals, or hanging out with friends. You can break down all of that. I once had a student tell me that if they had a spare Saturday, they would spend it all day playing video games. And I said to him, that's amazing. Do you know that you can play video games with a lot of people who that could be really helpful? So you can play video games at, you know, the Boys and Girls Clubs after school, and spend time with kids who really need mentors in their life and need someone to help them along in their daily life. And playing video games can be a great way to connect. So don't be ashamed of you know, whatever it is. It doesn't have to be this lofty thing of like, I want to save the whole world, and on a spare Saturday I'm going to go feed, you know, 10,000 homeless individuals. Like, you don't have to be intimidated by this. So first question is, what are you passionate about? And then from there, we start to ask you to connect it to the bigger picture. So, if you did say that you are really, you love working with kids, you're going to be able to connect that to one of the SDGs, or probably multiple SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals that Jesse was just showing you. So the biggest and most important thing at this point is that you take a moment and you think about, what am I passionate about?
I think a good example too of this is like, so you might be passionate about, I don't know, biking, exercise, getting outside, walking outside, being able to walk around your areas, your communities, right? And so we have a student that was like, I like biking to campus, and I like being able to walk and, to different areas. And so she connected that to like, right, how do we have more sustainable cities and communities? How can we have that kind of sustainable hub? And something that then she went a little bit further with is like, okay, so what is happening at our different intersections that are around here in Southwest Florida? How can we be making them safer for biker and pedestrians? And so that took her on this great journey that was connecting to a lot of things that are happening here locally and that are affecting local people. But it's also then really building on all these global aspects that tons of other people are trying to accomplish to kind of move us towards that like global citizenship and more of a sustainable future.
So I'd love at this point for you to pull out a piece of paper or open a document of some kind and literally write down the first thoughts that come to mind as we are talking with you. So go ahead and do that. Pull out a piece of paper, jot down, what are you passionate about? What are the first things that come to mind? And you may think, is that being out in nature? Is that being with kids? Kind of think about, if you're kind of stuck, think about the environment in which you feel energized by. For some, sorry.
That could also be personal beliefs, right? Like what do you and your family believe in? What are the things that you've been raised to like really care and love? What are the things that you all do? What do you do with your friends? What do you do with your family? I love that question Justin asked in terms of like, if you had a free Saturday, what would you spend that time doing? Where does your mind go when you think about that extra space?
And for some people, it is, being alone and quiet and reflective, or spending the day in the library because they love to read. And then other people, they want to be with a large group of friends, and that brings them energy, and they want to be, where all the action is. And everyone's unique, and so only you're going to know the answer to this question. So hopefully by now you've jotted down a couple of thoughts about what you're passionate about, and then if not right this minute, soon, take some time to connect those passions to the Sustainable Development Goals that Jesse just, that's up on the screen there, and that Jesse went over. You can Google Sustainable Development Goals and you'll see a lot of different really great resources. But I would encourage you to connect them to the Sustainable Development Goals. And if you don't understand the Sustainable Development Goals, it's okay. You're not missing the point. The point is, how do you first understand what you're passionate about and where you would enjoy spending your time? Because that then takes us into our next piece of connecting it to service. So this is where we love doing what we do here at FGCU, because we get to help people connect what they're passionate about to those, at least the graduation requirement. But in many cases, we usually see about 83% of our students that go over and above the graduation requirement with their hours. So we know that you will probably do far more than what your graduation requirement is. But we help people connect that passion area to the service. And Jessie can share a little bit about, personally her experience on how that worked when she was a student here. But I think we get to see it again and again and again of students who say, I'm really passionate about X, as they start to develop that. And then they go out and they do some service, and then they realize, wow, this is what I could do for the rest of my life. Mm-hmm. Like either working with this nonprofit or a nonprofit like this, or working, and sometimes it's not even a nonprofit. Sometimes they realize that they can, I really love helping people with their finances. And for some people, crunching numbers all day is so exciting to them. But you don't know that often until you get your hands and your feet wet a little bit and get out there. And we actually have a couple service programs where they need people like you to go and help with taxes. And if that's what you think, like maybe I want to be an accountant, go and get that experience and get your service learning hours done. And at the same time, you either realize I love doing this, or you realize, you know what, I do not like numbers at all.
And I think this is the important part. We have over 350 community partners that are on our database. We'll show you that a little bit later, that you can connect with. And so as long as you're gearing that towards what you're passionate about or where your skills lie in and what you really want to be providing for your community, like that's where it's really impactful. And so this last question that we want you to think about too then is a little bit about how can you connect your passion to your major, right? So we're going from this area where we're like, how can passion connect to your service? And then how can that service help you connect to your major? And so for me, I did my undergrad at FGCU, and I started off as a elementary education major. I mean, to the point where I'm like, I have like a reading corner like seat that my grandma's saving for me because like she still thinks one day I'm gonna like teach in a classroom. And I took a course and did service in the community through my environmental biology class. And I was like, what am I doing? You know, so I went out and served, and I like got really involved in like environmental aspects here in Southwest Florida. And this environment is great. I mean, it's beautiful for me. I'm not from Florida, so not only did it connect me to this gorgeous paradise, but it also really got me thinking about like maybe like, you know, general education, elementary education isn't what I want to be spending my next 4 years studying and then getting a job in after. And like, I even went into a classroom. So I was like, well, let me try that out first. So then I went and shadowed some teachers and saw what it was like to be in the classroom. I was like, this is just like not a fit for me. And so luckily I was able to figure out really early on in my, my career at FGCU that like, that was not the major for me. And I did that through getting out there, experiencing that through service. And so I ended up changing my major to environmental studies and then used different types of service. And we'll show you that next, is like, what are the different types of service to kind of guide me in figuring out in that major, what's the actual career path that I want to be going on. And then that's when I figured out like the type of service that I enjoy and the skills that I enjoy the most that I want to be putting towards my major and towards my career after I graduate. So this is a really great way to like self-reflect and figure out where you want to be going, what are you passionate about, and how to utilize service to your fullest to make sure that you're ready for your major and ready for what's coming after. And I know this is a lot to process, right? You're like, hey, I'm just getting started. What do you mean? But this is your time to explore, right? Try new things, like get out there. We have so many community partners wanting and needing help, and you all have such great experiences and skills to share. And so get into that now, early on in your career at FGCU, so you can use that to kind of guide your experiences.
Exactly. So step one is, figuring out what you're passionate about. But then step two is using service to figure out whether that passion needs to remain as a hobby or whether that could be a major and a future career. And so as you go from step one to step two, so you figure out your passion and then start engaging in service to figure out whether it's a hobby or a potential career. As you start looking for those service opportunities, we want you to remember that service has many different avenues. There's different forms of service. So we're going to talk to you about the 4 main types of service to consider. So if you decide that you are passionate about animals and you decide that, let's do some service to figure out whether animals should be a hobby of mine or should be a potential major and maybe a career of mine, then you could think about, okay, let's look at these 4 types of service and maybe I should dabble in a little of each. So direct service is going to be any time that you're doing service for an agency that is on the ground. It is doing what you are directly serving the mission and purpose of that organization and of the sustainable development goal that they focus on. So if I was interested in animals in that scenario, doing direct service might be going to the Humane Society and walking dogs or helping with the adoptions, like right on the ground. I am doing the work that they do. That is direct service. It's kind of the most traditional thing that we think of.
So the next type of service is indirect service, right? So this is, instead of being the one that's putting that tree into the ground, it's potentially calling the nurseries to be like, is this tree available? Do you have this ready? It could be also recording people and then sitting and going through all of those recordings at home, pulling things together, This could also be, potentially like we're really leaning into a lot of virtual opportunities, right? So things that you can do from your home. So there's lots of different ways that you can be impacting and working for a community partner that's not necessarily on the ground with them, but potentially it's just creating like a brochure for them. Or potentially it's at home creating a lesson plan that they can use with the kids at the Boys and Girls Club. So lots of different ideas. They don't have to be directly in person to make a really big impact with your community.
I had a student yesterday ask me if indirect always means remote, because now that we're in this virtual world, it's easy to see where a student like that may think that remote means indirect, but you can actually do indirect service in person. So with the Humane Society, indirect service might be filing all their papers, and you're not actually on the ground with the animals and with, getting the animals adopted and things, but you're still doing really great things. Or maybe you're putting on an in-person fundraiser for the Humane Society, and so you're not on the ground, but you are still doing really great work for that organization and for the sustainable development goal. And then our third type of service is advocacy, or we also like to just kind of informally call this education. So this is where you're speaking up on behalf of and raising awareness on behalf of the organization that you're working with and the issue that they are focused on. And examples of this might be tabling on campus to teach people about whatever the issue is that you're focused on. So again, if you're working with the Humane Society, it would be maybe tabling on campus to help people understand the importance of spaying and neutering their animals, or the need for healthy adoptions through the Humane Society. Or you're teaching people, maybe you're going into classrooms and doing presentations, or maybe you're doing a video that's raising awareness, or maybe you're meeting with elected officials about proposed legislation, and you're going to advocate for whatever you think needs to change. And it's really where people you're bought in, and you're trying to get other people bought in at the same time.
Absolutely. I think this is a really big one that students forget a lot about, and that like a lot of our community members just need help getting the word out there about them. Like, some of the organizations that we have partnered with are folks that only have one executive director, and that is really doing great work in like North Fort Myers, mentoring youth, but really need help getting that word out there, finding funders, and talking about their mission statement. The next one is research. This is our last type of service. And this is not necessarily, right, a lot of people are like, research, am I going to be in a lab, like checking cells out? No, this could be lots of different things. So this could be, a lot of organizations just need to find out, we've been doing the same fundraiser for 10 years, and we're wondering if our members are actually liking that fundraiser. So you could be creating a survey for them to figure out what are their members enjoying, then pulling that information for them and creating a presentation for them to be able to know, like, here's what we're seeing. These are the trends for your organization, and here are some feedback in terms of where you might want to go in the future. This could also be figuring out, are there different local irrigation companies that could help create, sprinkler systems for local community gardens? This could also be figuring out, maybe it could be on the ground again, right? In a different way of like, I'm going to go out and take water samples and turn that into the South Florida Water Management District so they can have a regular water sample testing. And this could eventually be, on campus working in some of the labs in Whitaker with different professors that are doing research on like water quality systems too. So like there are lots of different forms of research, and I think it's a really important aspect of what some of our nonprofits are looking for. And I think, so when you think about these 4 types of service and how you can engage in them, think about the skills that you want to be able to build on. Like, what are the skills that you're hoping to engage in and learn? And then what do you bring to the table that you can heighten and work on and kind of like strengthen? And so I think a lot of this is, for me, like I found out that I'm not a researcher. Like sitting behind a community and like finding data is like not the thing that I love. I also, went on a trip to Ghana through the Honors College and like studied sea turtles and like primates, which is like, sounds like the coolest thing ever, right? And for me, I was like, okay, like where are the people that like this is interacting with? Like I liked the advocacy. I liked telling people that we found that, the sea turtles that you're catching are more likely to happen in this sort of net. And then I liked being the person that went out, did those presentations, created pamphlets and brochures and advocated for different ways of doing that. And I liked being on the ground doing that direct, impact in terms of planting those trees. So figure out what you're excited in, the type of service that you want to engage in, because that could also then change the skills that you're building and the things that you want to do within your major.
Yeah. Yeah, I once had a community partner who they needed a grant, and so they needed data for the grant, and they don't have data people. They were one of those places that Jesse was talking about that just has like bare bones staff, and so they used student volunteers to go out and get the data that they needed for the grant, and they were able to win the grant, get awarded the grant because of the research that the students did. And their research was going door to door and doing a survey of the people in the neighborhood because they needed information about, I think it was diabetes. They needed to know, people who was affected in their community by diabetes, and then they were able to apply for a grant, get a grant. So that type of service can be really, really, really impactful. But it's like Jesse said, it's not something that everybody always thinks of right away.
Absolutely.
So those are your 4 types of service. Sorry, Jesse, did you have something else?
I was going to do the same thing with you. So we have lots of, online, resources for you to be able to figure out, what are the different community partners that you can be partnering with after you think about those like passion areas that you have, as well as we even have some online opportunities that could give you some ideas of types of service that you could be doing with community partners. So I'm going to jump off of this presentation and go to our homepage. So this is the Service Learning and Civic Engagement homepage. It talks a little about, we just moved to McTardigan Hall, come see us. A little bit about what's happening with COVID, updates in terms of our relocation, how do you document hours, graduation stuff. We have awards from our office, great, great, great. But what I want to show you is if you go down to the menu and hit Find an Agency, scroll down, you can search for agencies, the ones that we have in our database, alphabetically. So if you're like, you know what, I know that I love like construction, I love building, I love getting my hands down, and I know I'm going to be an engineering major and I really want to lean into like Habitat for Humanity. We have some in Lee, we have some in Collier, we have some in Glades, Hendry, Lux. So you can search alphabetically for that. If you're like, I just want to see what's out there, and you're in a specific county, you can search by county, and then you can also search by category. And this is, again, like, what are you excited about? What are you passionate about? Education, adult care, political action, social justice, special needs, environment.
Well, and sometimes you may think of something that you're excited about, and it's not listed there. So you may say, I'm really excited about playing soccer. Okay, are you really excited about playing soccer with kids? Or are you really excited about playing soccer with your friends? And either answer is fine. But then you might then want to go into education and work with maybe a PE program, a physical education program, or a special needs program if you like playing soccer with kids. But if you like playing and sports and fitness is there. So just you might have to take it another step beyond just like that initial answer in order to break it down and then find service that connects.
Yeah, I will say, so if a student ever comes in my office and is like, I'm just really not sure where to get started, my first question to them is like, okay, so what do you care about? Like, what's your passion area? And literally I do what we're about to do, and I figure out, all right, let's hit on some categories here. Let's just see a bunch of them. And then I search for that agencies or those agencies that hit on that. And then I kind of like walk through and I'll talk to them a little bit about these different organizations. Like, all right, well, so the Boys and Girls Club, you could potentially do these different types of service with them because like this is their mission statement listed here. This is what they're looking for in terms of job description. What are they looking for in terms of opportunities? Who do you reach out to? But this is also a great, and we're really working to update some of these so our community partners actually start adding those different sustainable development goals that they're hitting on too. So if you're looking for those, so like a good example is Crew Land and Water Trust, a little bit about their nonprofit. We align with Sustainable Development Goals 3, 4, 6, 12, 15.
Yeah.
Right? I know, Jane's so great. And so I would literally go through this with students and be like, all right, so this is what we know about this organization. Do you think that this is a good fit? And they're like, maybe not, or yes. So then what I say is there's the email, right? There's the phone number. Oh, that's fax, phone number, right? And then if you don't get a hold of those folks, what's that secondary contact that you could potentially call? Because you're like, hey, I really am excited about this organization. And I would say too, once you get to this page and figure out like, what are the organizations that exist, right? What is out there? Then you can take this and search for them in terms of like, what's on their website, learn a little bit more about them, check them out on social media, see what's going on, right? Especially, right now with COVID, it's really important to learn a little bit more about the organizations before you just jump in and get excited about working with them. So this is our database, lots of great information here. I've even sometimes just gone alphabetically and been like, let's go through, let's see what we have here. Like,
and there's a lot, so
yeah,
it can be a little overwhelming, but use those categories,
right? And like, Girls on the Run, we have lots of great stuff that's on this. So I will also say, if you're like, hey, I just want to dip my toes in and see what's out there, see what's going on, our next resource for you is our service learning opportunities page. So we love EagleLink, right? Great. EagleLink is a great way to learn about what's happening on campus. And now we've added what's happening off campus. So if you search on EagleLink for service learning opportunities, lots of great information here. We even list some ideas for virtual opportunities here. And something I want to mention for this page is like, we're working with EagleLink on trying to change the dates and times, because some of these are ongoing, right? Organizations are like, hey, I really need help with this semester. So unfortunately, we can't have like a start and end date for something like that. So just know that like the opportunities that are listed here were first when they told us about them, not meaning like that's their end date. So we might found out about them back in August, and so you might see August as one of the dates, but that doesn't mean that's over. So if you hit view more events, these are all the different events that are active right now. So if they're in EagleLink, that means that they're active. That means that Habitat for Humanity called me and was like, hey, we need this. Or the Humane Shelter was like, hey, we really need help with this donation drive. So this is where we kind of put what's going on out there and what community partners directly need.
And you'll see that things in here are direct, indirect, research, and advocacy opportunities that are all in here.
Right, direct, trail maintenance, right on the ground with crew. Talks a little about what they're doing. Another one, if like you're really wanting to stay at home and do stuff, there's lots of different virtual opportunities.
Like the basket of kitties.
I love this one. This organization's name is For the Love of Cats. And they are like, hey, with everything going online, we really want to start increasing our content on our website so people see us more as a resource. And so they're looking for blog writers. I think that's amazing. That's something that you could do from your home. If you're like, hey, I just like want to talk about how great cats are, reach out to Jan. And all of these, as you go through these, also have, let me hit on another one, the different skills that you might be working in, teamwork and collaboration, as well as the sustainable development goal that they hit on too. So if you're still a little bit confused and you're like, hey, I don't really get these sustainable development goals, this is a really great way to kind of see what organizations are hitting what goals and finding out like what are the different types of service that I can engage in, right? This is right on the ground, stocking shelves, making sure food is getting to people that need it.
So again, kind of looking at the big picture of what we're talking about here, you want to find your passion and then use opportunities like this and finding opportunities through the database to decide whether that passion could be a potential major in a career for you, or should probably stay a hobby for you. And the answer is never right or wrong. It's not like there's a right or wrong answer. It's what's right for you.
Yeah.
So we really want this experience to be, and needs to be, a personal exploration. So we're trying to give you the skills, the resources to navigate that exploration of, is this interest of mine a hobby or is it a major and a career? But only you're going to be able to walk that path. And so we're all here to help talk through things with you, to guide you, to give you resources, but only you are going to be able to decide whether that's something that you really want to spend your, and one of the things I really encourage students to do is when you're on site with folks in these areas, so if you think you want to be an accountant and you try that tax thing, ask the people that you're working with and that you're working for in those moments that you're serving with and serving for, ask the professionals who work in this every day what their life is like. what time do they go to work? What time do they get home from work? How many days a week do they work? What, tax season for a tax person is crazy. They're home for like 4 hours a day. The rest of their day is all at work because it's tax season.
Yeah.
And, so that's stuff that you're going to have the people around you who work in those areas at your disposal. You'll get to ask these questions, and you'll be volunteering alongside of them.
You can serve in hospitals. Route is like, do you like 3 days on that are 12-hour shifts? Do you like working with children? Do you not like working? Do you want to work in the ICU? It's a really great way forward. I will also say one last resource that we provide students is that we also have events that come out of our office. And so this is our office's EagleLink site. And we do have events that are going on. One that's actually happening coming up October 4th is Make a Difference Day. And that's where we have 20 sites all across the, Southwest Florida that you can volunteer at. And so that's something that's another way to just jump in and like try out something that's happening with other fellow FGCU students.
And if you happen to be watching this after October 24th, just know that we have opportunities listed on our page all the time, and you can always check back there.
Yeah, we're adding events every single day, and we're going to start adding, workshops that talk about like passion areas and like, social areas that you can be, diving in a little bit deeper. So check out our website, check out our EagleLink pages. We have lots and lots of stuff for you, but use this time that you have through this course. And like, thank you so much for taking this course, number one, because it's a really great way to like make the most out of your experience here at GCU, right? And that can be through service and exploring the things that you really do care about and what you want to engage in.
And I know right now we're just faces on a screen for you, but we are humans, and we are here, and we are on the second floor of McTarnigan Hall, and we're happy to talk with you. We also have amazing student assistants in our office who can come and meet with your student organization and talk through some of this stuff, and meet with you individually, can really help you along. And so there are many, many resources. We want you to not only engage in service, but we want you to find a major and a future career that you just love, and that every day you enjoy going to, and that you know that it's how your skill sets are best used, and use service as your opportunity to explore that.
Thank you so much. This is
great. Thanks everyone.